FNaF 6 is believed by many to have been a perfect ending to the Five Nights at Freddy's series, but when I looked into it a while ago, I realized that Henry's plan was really stupid. He kinda just assumes everything to work when there's not really enough evidence backing it up. Despite this, not only does he carry out his plan, but he kills himself in the process, preventing him from making sure that it worked. It's really not a good plan when you take a step back and look at it. That's why I don't really mind that basically everyone returns in Security Breach, except for Henry. But there's one other character who seemed to die in FNaF 6 that most people don't think returned. Or well, they think he returned, but as a spirit. But is that really true? In this video, I'm going to be going over all the evidence that suggests that by the time of Security Breach, Michael Afton is still alive. He never died from FNaF 6, and he's still around to this day. I do recognize that this is going to be a controversial theory, but I don't think that Michael is dead, and I think that after this video, many of you won't either.
There's a part of me, no true psychology, breaking down my sanity, oh my anxiety, waking 'cause I cannot see what's in front of me.
When it first came out, everyone believed that FNaF 6 had effectively ended everyone except William Afton, who was left to be dealt with by the vengeful spirit. But if you actually look back at it, there's a few things from FNaF 6 that hinted at things not quite being finished. Take a look at the Insanity ending and listen to what the tutorial unit tells us.
Congratulations! You went somewhere you weren't supposed to go, saw something you weren't supposed to see, and prevented a tidy resolution to a messy problem. Needless to say, you're fired. But before you go, take this certificate of insanity. We're giving it to you to ensure that no one believes you, and to ensure that we can promptly replace you without incident. There is a truck waiting for you outside. Take care.
Tutorial Unit is trying to silence us about what's going on, and he's literally sending us to a mental facility in this ending. The ending speeches by Tutorial Unit are not directed towards us as the player, but to Michael Afton as the character we are playing as. This isn't very much on its own, but it happens again in the other endings as well. Tutorial Unit continuously congratulates you in all the other endings for completing a full week on the job. We're also told that we run out of money. We're also told to get lost and that we suck at business. Tutorial Unit is talking to Michael Afton. The same also goes for the completion ending, but in the completion ending, the fire has happened and Michael has supposedly died, yet somehow Tutorial Unit is talking to him, telling him that he's done a good job. He even talks to him about making up for past mistakes and tying up loose ends, the plot of FNaF 6, but the fact that the Tutorial Unit is telling Michael about all that is telling us that he did not succeed, and the completion certificate also appears on the main menu screen, implying that we actually received it, and none of this would be possible if Michael was alive. However, I do realize that many people would just write this off as just being for the player, and while I don't think this is the case for the reasons I've gone over, I do realize that this is probably the weakest evidence, which is why I'm mentioning it first. As we all know, after the events of FNaF 6, William Afton returns as a glitch trap. In the lead up to Security Breach, we of course got the Freddy and Friends cartoons, and as they progressed, they got more and more glitchy. The final episode contains many yellow glitches that, when put together, create the shape of Glitch Trap. Glitch Trap is haunting the tapes containing the Freddy and Friends cartoons. In Security Breach, we can find a room that we know belonged to Michael as we see him in it in Sister Location, but while many people believe this room to be a replica, I don't. Why? Well, first of all, there's the simple question of why this would be created. This room has nothing to do with the rest of the Pizzaplex and also doesn't have anything to do with what Fazbear Entertainment has been doing. So why would this be here? Well, in a few videos from about a year ago now, I discussed why I think that the FNaF 6 Pizzeria is the same building as Fredbear's Family Diner, just repurposed, which I'm planning to do another video going over all the evidence once again in the near future. In both the FNaF 4 gameplay and the house from Sister Location, we see this same lamp. This is the same house, and we see it on the Sister Location Breaker Room map that this house is near Fredbear's Family Diner. So that would mean that Michael's house would be nearby, and the Pizzaplex would have been built over it as well, making this room being the original very likely. And there's also the word of Steelwood themselves.
What's really cool about the cartoons, actually, is that if you've been paying close attention to them, you're already playing Security Breach.
Okay.
In Daco's interview with J-Top and Ray, they said that the Freddy and Friends cartoons are viewable in-game, and they also say that watching these cartoons means we've already played Security Breach. Part of the reasoning for this could be that we've played Security Breach because we've been in this room before in a previous game. Maybe not, as like I said, what they're mostly talking about is Freddy and Friends, but it is something nonetheless. So, say this actually is Michael's room. The Freddy and Friends cartoons are playing on his TV. Glitch Trap is possessing these tapes, and Michael has watched them. Wouldn't that mean that Michael was alive while Glitch Trap already existed? Again, maybe not, but it's something I wanted to point out. But in this very same room, we have the wall code. Now, I've gone over this wall code multiple times, most notably in my recent video where I possibly solved Patient 46, so go check out that video if you haven't already, because I think I made the best case for Gregory being a robot as I went over all the evidence for it. But whether you believe Gregory to be a robot or not, this wall code is talking about him, with the lines referencing all the movements he does, telling him not to cry, indicating crying is something normal for this kid, connecting to the crying child, and most importantly, the code saying crush the vile band, and then Gregory in Security Breach destroys all the Glamrock animatronics. The code is in Michael's room, which tells us that the code was written by him. Why would someone else write this in Michael's room? They wouldn't. He wrote about how he wanted the breath to destroy the animatronics, and then Gregory destroyed the animatronics. Not only meaning that Gregory is the breath, but also that he was made to destroy specifically the Glamrock animatronics, meaning that Michael was still alive when the Glamrocks were created, and they were created after FNaF 6. Next we have what is also probably a pretty controversial idea, as is this entire theory, both as a theory and as a story, but nonetheless I think that it is true. There's a lot of evidence that both Charlotte and the missing children are still around in Security Breach. The sticky note room is named Charlie Door, meaning that she is at least one of the spirits inside, and in Happiest Day we see that the puppet gets free along with the missing children, meaning if Charlotte is still around, so are the other missing kids. There's also a lot of evidence to suggest the blob contains the spirit of the missing children, as I talk about in this video, and other evidence to suggest the puppet is in the staff bots. Maybe not all of them, but at least some of them, at least the nightmare ones. There's also the whole remnant thing. This is something I've gone over time and time again, but I realize my theory videos do bring in new people who may not have seen my videos in the past, so I'll just go over all of it again, though I'll try to be brief. FNaF 6 has Henry believe that Remnant burns in fire, which is where his plan comes from. This theory of course comes from the Scooper blueprints in the Insanity ending, but if we really pay attention to what these blueprints say, it's really left vague. The blueprints actually say that there is only a possibility that high temperatures might neutralize the effects of Remnant. This tells us that there is a chance that Remnant can be completely unaffected by Remnant, but there's also the fact that Burntrap in Security Breach has flesh growing over him, indicating he's using Remnant, and he's also unaffected by the fire. What's more is something we see in the Fourth Closet graphic novel. I made a short under a month ago talking about the canonicity of the graphic novels. To put it simply, an artist for the graphic novels explained that the scripts are provided, meaning that the dialogue in the graphic novel is canon while the art is not, as the artists have free reign for the art. So what's interesting about that is that in the Fourth Closet graphic novel, Elizabeth says that William is at risk of destroying the Remnant, and he says that it cannot be destroyed and can only be used to serve a higher purpose. He says that Remnant cannot be destroyed by heat, and while yes, he and the missing kids do die and dissipate at the end of the book, that's much more likely due to the fact that they were intentionally keeping him alive like they do with Carlton, and allowing William to die when they learn the truth, also giving them the opportunity to allow themselves to be free as William is gone and they now have closure. This also means that in Security Breach, with William still being around, the missing kids and Charlotte would also have to be as well because they don't have the closure yet. Coupling all that with the evidence of the blob being the missing children and other evidence of the missing kids and Charlotte still being around, all this is to say that Remnant does not burn in fire. The reason this is important is because Michael is being kept alive by Remnant. He's included in the fire because Henry believes it will burn away the Remnant and allow Michael to die, but if Remnant actually doesn't burn in fire, then Michael would remain alive as the Remnant will continue to keep him alive. And finally, we have FNaF AR. I feel like people really forget about this game just because it wasn't exactly the best entry of the series, but like it or not, the lore in this thing is important. I think possibly the most overlooked thing in the game is the protagonist. Many people believe that we simply play as ourselves, but this is not true. The Fazbear Funtime service is only meant to last 24 hours, but ours switches to lasting for 999 years. Our player isn't just some random person, our player is someone specific, and while it's not confirmed who that player is, it is possible that it's Michael. However, that's not the main point I'm trying to make here. In FNaF AR, there were many leaked emails that never were released. Many people deem these emails non-canon due to them being scrapped, but just because something is scrapped doesn't mean it doesn't contain canonical information. It might not, but if there are things that suggest it does, then it absolutely is canon. While I don't agree entirely with FNaF's I solved FNaF Security Breach theories, one thing I think he hit the mark on was the connections between Security Breach and the FNaF AR emails, confirming that the emails are important. Then he goes on to say that some aren't reliable, but then doesn't really explain why very well. For instance, he says that Vanessa was born in 1997 but is 23 in Security Breach, not matching the date of Security Breach, but this is not true. The 97 at the end of her username is actually her birthday, September 7th, as we learned from other emails. He also says that Patient 46 and Ness were split up into two different characters, but this also isn't necessarily true as Vanessa's files were hacked, meaning it's entirely possible and also very likely that Gregory used her credentials to get access to the Fazbear systems and infect them with Glitchtrap rather than her doing it herself. One of the scrapped emails has an alert to mafton@bigbearmails.net. Michael is not only alive, he is connected to Fazbear Entertainment. It's possible he's the CEO and isn't actually evil, maybe suggesting Vanessa for the job because she's his daughter, although I think that's just a possibility for the reasons I went over in this video on Vanessa, but it might not be the case. That's just like, I'm just saying because it's possible. But he could also be working a more minor role. Maybe he replaces Mr. Burrows as the head chairman after he dies in The Storyteller. Maybe he's a janitor or fired security guard that was let go due to the staff uprising. Maybe he is connected to Fazbear in some other way. What matters is that Michael Afton is alive. What purpose does it serve? It's unclear, but it's most likely that since basically everyone else survived the fire, it wouldn't make sense for Michael to be left out. But because he is an old man now, maybe he can't exactly act on destroying the company for good physically, so he tries to do it from the inside and creates Gregory to destroy all the Glamrock animatronics to weaken the company and attempt to destroy it once and for all. But that's everything I wanted to talk about for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to. Let me know in the comments if you agree with this theory, let me know if you like it story-wise, or if you think Michael should have died. Personally, I think it makes more sense that he is alive, but that would also completely prevent him from being Glamrock Freddy. I already didn't think that Mike was Glamrock Freddy, but if that's the case, then who is Glamrock Freddy? Well, that's just gonna have to wait for a future video, because although I've talked about it in the past, I haven't exactly done a video focused solely on him, so keep an eye out for that when I do. But that's everything, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!